Throughout history, societies have implemented laws to maintain order and regulate behavior. While many laws have been necessary and reasonable, there are some that have been nothing short of bizarre. These unusual laws, found across different time periods and cultures,
only the name of a fellow witch will spare your life.
I know of no others.
Provide unique insights into the societies that created them. In this video, we will explore 15 of the weirdest laws in history that actually existed, ranging from ancient Roman regulations to the peculiar legal codes of modern times. Lex Voconia was a Roman law introduced in 169 BC, which prohibited women from inheriting substantial amounts of wealth. The law was initially aimed at preserving the patrician class's wealth and preventing the accumulation of assets by a single woman.
Rome shall be again as she once was, a proud republic of virtuous women and honest men.
However, as Roman society progressed, this law became obsolete and was eventually abolished. The Law of the 12 Tables, dating back to 450 BC, was one of the earliest legal codes in ancient Rome. It was a compilation of statutes that covered various aspects of Roman life, including property, religion, and family matters. Some of the weirder rules included the prohibition of burying or burning a dead body within city limits, a ban on singing offensive songs about another person, and the requirement that a father must sell his son into slavery if the son was found guilty of theft. These laws, while odd by modern standards, were considered necessary to maintain social order in ancient Rome. Lex Julia on adultery, enacted in 18 BC by Augustus Caesar, was a law intended to uphold traditional family values and curb immorality. The law criminalized adultery, making it a public offense punishable by exile and confiscation of property. What made this law particularly strange was the requirement for the husband to prosecute his wife and her lover within a specific time frame. If the husband failed to do so, he could be charged with pandering. Furthermore, the father of the accused woman was given the right to kill her lover if he caught them in the act. This law was later repealed in the late Roman Empire, as it was considered too harsh and unenforceable. In ancient Greece, the development of legal codes played a crucial role in shaping their society. Dracon's Law Code, dating back to 621 BC, was one of the earliest written legal codes in ancient Athens. Dracon's laws were known for their severity, often prescribing death as the punishment for even minor offenses. One of the most notorious examples was the law that imposed the death penalty for stealing a cabbage. The term draconian, derived from Dracon's name, is now used to describe any overly harsh or severe law. While Dracon's law code was instrumental in establishing a written legal system in Athens, it was deemed too harsh by many citizens. Consequently, the Athenian lawmaker Solon was tasked with reforming the legal code in 594 BC. Solon's reforms were wide-ranging and touched on several aspects of Athenian society. One of his most significant reforms was the abolition of debt slavery, which had led to the widespread enslavement of Athenian citizens. In addition to economic reforms, Solon introduced several unusual laws. One of Solon's peculiar laws required that all young men live with their parents until they were married. Failure to do so would result in the loss of citizenship rights. Furthermore, Solon made it illegal for citizens to remain neutral during times of conflict. In the event of a civil dispute, citizens were required to choose a side, and those who refused were labeled traitors and lost their property. Another one of Solon's odd laws concerned the burial of the dead. In an attempt to prevent excessive displays of grief, Solon banned the tearing of clothes, the scratching of one's face, and loud wailing at funerals. Moreover, Solon regulated the practice of mourning by prohibiting the display of more than 3 garments on a tombstone and limiting the amount of food that could be consumed at a funeral. Solon's reforms, while unusual in some respects, were instrumental in creating a more equitable society in ancient Athens. By alleviating the harshness of Dracon's law code and addressing various social and economic issues, Solon's laws laid the foundation for the development of democracy in Athens. Although some of his regulations may seem strange by modern standards, they were essential in establishing the legal framework that allowed ancient Greek society to flourish. During the medieval period in Europe, various unusual laws and practices emerged as societies grappled with the challenges of their time. One such practice was the trial by ordeal, which was used to determine a person's guilt or innocence. This method of trial was based on the belief that divine intervention would reveal the truth. There were several types of ordeals, including trial by fire, trial by water, and trial by combat. In the trial by fire, an accused person had to hold a red-hot iron bar and walk a certain distance. The wound was then bandaged, and after a few days, it was examined. If the wound was healing well, the accused was considered innocent. If not, they were deemed guilty. The trial by water involved submerging the accused in water. If they floated, they were considered guilty, and if they sank, they were innocent. The trial by combat involved the accused fighting their accuser or a champion appointed by the court. The winner was considered to be in the right, while the loser was deemed guilty. These methods of trial were eventually abolished as they were considered barbaric and unreliable. Another peculiar set of laws in medieval Europe were the sumptuary laws, which aimed to regulate people's clothing, food, and luxury items based on their social class. These laws were designed to maintain social hierarchy and prevent lower classes from imitating the appearance and lifestyle of the upper classes. For example, in 14th century England, it was illegal for anyone below the rank of knight to wear clothes made of silk, fur, or velvet. Similar laws existed across Europe, with variations in the specific items and materials restricted. Sumptuary laws also regulated the types of food and drink consumed by different social classes. In medieval Italy, for instance, only nobles were allowed to eat certain kinds of meat, and there were restrictions on the number of dishes that could be served at feasts. These laws were not always strictly enforced, and their effectiveness in maintaining social order is debatable. Over time, as societies evolved and the distinctions between social classes became less rigid, sumptuary laws were gradually repealed. Both the trial by ordeal and sumptuary laws exemplify the unique ways in which medieval European societies sought to maintain order and hierarchy. While these laws may seem strange and even cruel by modern standards, they offer valuable insights into the values and beliefs of the time. In colonial America, the legal landscape was heavily influenced by the religious beliefs and social norms of the settlers. This led to the implementation of some peculiar laws that are now viewed as bizarre and unjust. One of the most infamous examples of this is the Salem witch trials, which took place in colonial Massachusetts between 1692 and 1693. During this period, mass hysteria over suspected witchcraft led to the execution of 20 people and the imprisonment of over 150 others. The trials were marked by a reliance on spectral evidence, which involved the testimony of accusers claiming to have seen the spirits of the alleged witches committing acts of witchcraft. This form of evidence was accepted by the courts, despite its dubious nature. The trials came to an end when the governor of Massachusetts intervened and prohibited the use of spectral evidence. In the years that followed, the trials were widely criticized, and those who had been convicted were eventually pardoned. Another peculiar aspect of colonial American law was the implementation of blue laws, which were designed to regulate moral behavior, particularly on Sundays. These laws were named after the color of the paper on which they were originally printed. Blue laws restricted various activities on Sundays, such as the sale of alcohol, the performance of labor, and the playing of sports. The primary purpose of these laws was to ensure that Sundays were reserved for religious observance and rest. In some cases, blue laws were enforced quite strictly, with punishments ranging from fines to public whippings for those who violated them. In Massachusetts, for example, a man named John Maynard was fined for kissing his wife in public on a Sunday, as it was considered a violation of the Sabbath. Over time, as religious attitudes shifted and the need for a shared day of rest diminished, many blue laws were repealed or simply fell out of use. However, remnants of these laws can still be found in some areas of the United States, particularly with regard to the sale of alcohol on Sundays. The peculiar laws of colonial America, such as the Salem witch trials and blue laws, demonstrate the ways in which religious beliefs and social norms influenced the legal systems of the time. While these laws may seem strange and even oppressive by today's standards, they provide important insights into the values and priorities of colonial American society. During the Victorian era in England, a variety of unusual laws were enacted, reflecting the unique social and economic challenges of the time. One such law was the window tax, introduced in 1696 and lasting until 1851. This tax was levied on homeowners based on the number of windows in their houses, with the intention of creating a progressive tax system where the wealthy paid more due to their larger homes with more windows. However, the tax had unintended consequences, as many people bricked up their windows to avoid paying the tax. This led to poorly lit and inadequately ventilated homes, contributing to public health issues. Another peculiar law from the Victorian era was related to chimney sweeps. At the time, child labor was prevalent, and young children, often orphans or those from impoverished backgrounds, were employed as chimney sweeps due to their small size, which allowed them to climb and clean narrow chimneys. The working conditions were dangerous and often led to serious injuries, illnesses, or even death. In response to growing public concern over the well-being of these child chimney sweeps, the Chimney Sweepers Act was passed in 1788, setting a minimum working age of 8 years old. However, this law was largely ineffective due to weak enforcement mechanisms. Subsequent laws were enacted in 1834 and 1840 to raise the minimum age and improve working conditions, but these too were poorly enforced. It wasn't until the Chimney Sweepers Act of 1875 that stricter regulations and better enforcement mechanisms were put in place, significantly improving the situation for child chimney sweeps. Both the window tax and the chimney sweep laws exemplify the peculiar ways in which the government and society attempted to address the social and economic challenges of Victorian England. While these laws may seem odd or even counterproductive by modern standards, they provide valuable insights into the historical context and the priorities of the time. In Asia, there have been several unusual laws and practices throughout history, reflecting the unique cultural and social norms of the region. One such practice was foot binding in China, which persisted for centuries until its eventual prohibition in the early 20th century. Foot binding involved tightly wrapping young girls' feet to prevent them from growing, resulting in small, deformed feet that were considered a sign of beauty and status. Although foot binding was not a government-enforced law, it became a deeply ingrained social custom that was difficult to eradicate. In 1912, the new Chinese government officially banned foot binding, and various campaigns were launched to promote women's rights and abolish this harmful tradition. In Japan, during the Edo period, 1603 to 1868, sumptuary laws were enacted to maintain the rigid social hierarchy of the time. These laws regulated various aspects of people's lives, including clothing, hairstyles, and the consumption of luxury goods. The primary goal of these laws was to prevent the lower classes from imitating the appearance and lifestyle of the upper classes, ensuring that each social class remained distinct. For example, commoners were prohibited from wearing silk garments or using certain colors and patterns reserved for the samurai class. The laws also restricted the size and decoration of homes, as well as the types of vehicles used for transportation. Similar to sumptuary laws in medieval Europe, the effectiveness of these laws in Edo period Japan is debatable. They were often difficult to enforce, and people found creative ways to circumvent the restrictions. However, the existence of these laws illustrates the importance placed on maintaining social order and preserving the hierarchy of the time. Both Chinese foot binding and Edo period Japan's sumptuary laws demonstrate the unique cultural practices and legal systems that have shaped Asian societies throughout history. While these laws and customs may seem strange or even cruel by contemporary standards, they offer valuable insights into the social and cultural values of their respective historical periods. In Africa, various unique laws and customs have emerged throughout history, reflecting the diverse cultural and social norms of the continent. One example is the matriarchal laws in the Dahomey Kingdom, which was located in present-day Benin. In the Dahomey society, women held significant power, with the king's mother playing a vital role in the governance of the kingdom. Additionally, women could inherit property and hold leadership positions, including serving as warriors in the Dahomey Amazon, an all-female military unit. These matriarchal laws provided women with greater rights and influence than was common in many other societies of the time. Another example of unusual laws can be found in the Ashanti Empire, which was a powerful West African state located in present-day Ghana. The Ashanti legal system was based on customary law and oral traditions, with a complex hierarchy of courts and judges responsible for resolving disputes and maintaining order. One of the unique aspects of Ashanti law was the concept of abusua, which dictated that property and social status were inherited through the maternal line. This matrilineal inheritance system ensured that wealth and power remained within the extended family and helped maintain social stability. Another peculiar law within the Ashanti Empire was the prohibition of shedding royal blood. If a member of the royal family committed a crime that warranted execution, they were not subjected to the usual methods, as it was believed that shedding their blood would bring calamity to the kingdom. Instead, the offender was forced to commit suicide, usually through the ingestion of poison, to avoid the negative consequences of shedding royal blood. These examples of African laws, from the Dahomey Kingdom's matriarchal laws to the unique legal customs of the Ashanti Empire, provide insights into the diverse cultural practices and legal systems that have shaped African societies throughout history. While some of these laws may seem unusual or even counterintuitive by modern standards, they were vital in maintaining social order and harmony within their respective societies. In Australia, various peculiar laws have emerged over time, reflecting the unique challenges and historical events that have shaped the nation. One such law was the Rabbit-Proof Fence Act, passed in the early 20th century to address the issue of rabbit overpopulation. European settlers had introduced rabbits to Australia in the 19th century, and their rapid proliferation led to significant ecological damage and the loss of native species. In response, the Western Australian government constructed a series of rabbit-proof fences to prevent the spread of rabbits into valuable agricultural land. The fence, stretching over 3,000 kilometers, was one of the largest infrastructure projects of its time and remains a testament to the lengths to which the government went to address this ecological crisis. Another example of a significant event in Australian legal history was the Eureka Stockade Rebellion of 1854. The rebellion was sparked by the discontent of gold miners in the colony of Victoria who were unhappy with the oppressive licensing system and the lack of representation in the colonial government. The miners constructed a stockade, a makeshift fortification, to protect themselves from the authorities. The ensuing conflict between the miners and the government forces led to the deaths of 22 miners and 6 soldiers. The Eureka Stockade Rebellion ultimately resulted in the establishment of several royal commissions, which led to significant reforms in mining regulations and the expansion of political rights for the miners, including the introduction of the secret ballot and the extension of suffrage to all adult males. Both the Rabbit-Proof Fence Act and the Eureka Stockade Rebellion highlight the unique challenges and historical events that have shaped Australia's legal landscape. While these laws and events may seem unusual or even extreme by modern standards, they were pivotal in addressing the social and environmental issues of their time, providing valuable lessons for future generations. In South America, the legal systems of both ancient and more recent societies have featured unique laws that reflect their distinct cultural and historical contexts. In the Inca Empire, for instance, the mita system was a labor draft law that required members of the empire to contribute labor for public works projects, such as building roads, temples, and agricultural terraces. The mita system was a vital part of the Inca economy, allowing for the efficient allocation of labor and resources throughout the empire. It also played a role in integrating conquered peoples into the Inca society and maintaining social order. In more recent South American history, the Brazilian Land of Saints law, enacted in 1835, prohibited the African-Brazilian religious practice of candomblé, which had roots in West African Yoruba, Fon, and Bantu cultures. The law was designed to suppress African cultural practices and force assimilation into the predominantly Catholic Brazilian society. However, The practitioners of candomblé continued to practice their religion in secret and adapted their rituals to incorporate Catholic symbols, allowing the religion to survive despite the prohibition. In the 20th century, the Land of Saints law was repealed, and candomblé has since been recognized as an important part of Brazil's cultural heritage. In the United States, there are numerous peculiar local laws that reflect the diverse and sometimes quirky nature of American culture. For example, in Alabama, the town of Columbia celebrates Mule Day annually, which is an official town holiday. The event features a parade, live music, arts and crafts, and various mule-themed activities. Similarly, in California, the City of Angels Camp hosts the annual Frog Jumping Jubilee, inspired by Mark Twain's short story, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. This event features frog jumping contests and other frog-themed activities, drawing participants from across the country. These examples of unique laws from South America and the United States highlight the diverse cultural practices and historical events that have shaped legal systems around the world. While some of these laws may seem strange or even comical by modern standards, they provide valuable insights into the societies in which they were enacted and the challenges they were designed to address. In Europe, a variety of unique laws have emerged throughout history, reflecting the diverse cultural and social contexts of the continent. One example is the French Napoleonic Code, established in 1804 under the rule of Napoleon Bonaparte. The code was a comprehensive legal system that sought to modernize and unify French law, abolishing feudal privileges and promoting principles such as equality before the law and the protection of property rights. While the Napoleonic Code was progressive in many respects, it also reinforced patriarchal norms, such as granting men greater control over family property and limiting the rights of women in marriage. Another peculiar European law is the German beer purity law, or Reinheitsgebot, which was established in 1516 in the Duchy of Bavaria. The law stipulated that beer could only be made from 3 ingredients: water, barley, and hops. The law was intended to protect consumers from impure and potentially harmful ingredients and to ensure the quality and consistency of beer produced in the region. The Reinheitsgebot remained in effect for centuries and was eventually adopted by the unified German state in the 19th century. While the law has since been relaxed, many German brewers continue to adhere to its principles as a matter of tradition and pride. In Canada, some unusual laws have emerged that reflect the country's unique social values and concerns. One example is the Sorry Act of Ontario, which was passed in 2009. The law stipulates that apologizing for an incident does not constitute an admission of guilt or liability, allowing individuals to express empathy and regret without fear of legal consequences. This law reflects the importance placed on politeness and courtesy in Canadian culture. Another peculiar Canadian law is the Alberta Rat Control Law, which prohibits the breeding, sale, and possession of rats in the province. The law was implemented in the 1950s to prevent the spread of rats and the damage they can cause to agriculture and infrastructure. Alberta remains one of the few rat-free regions in the world, thanks in part to the strict enforcement of this law. These examples of unique laws from Europe and Canada demonstrate the diverse cultural practices and historical events that have shaped legal systems around the world. While some of these laws may seem strange or even counterintuitive by modern standards, they provide valuable insights into the societies in which they were enacted and the challenges they were designed to address. In the Middle East, unique laws have emerged that reflect the region's distinct cultural, religious, and political contexts. One example of an unusual law can be found in Saudi Arabia, where public dancing is banned. This ban is rooted in the conservative interpretation of Islamic law practiced in the country, which seeks to maintain strict gender segregation and discourage activities that could be seen as immoral or indecent. Although there are private events where dancing is allowed, public displays of dancing are generally forbidden, and those caught violating this rule may face legal consequences. Another example of an unusual Middle Eastern law can be found in Iran, where the government has established a strict hairstyle code for men. This code was implemented as part of an effort to combat what the authorities view as the cultural invasion of Western ideas and values. The code prohibits various hairstyles, such as ponytails, mullets, and spikes, which are seen as symbols of decadent Western culture. Barbers who are found to be offering these hairstyles may face fines and even closure of their businesses. The hairstyle code is a reflection of the broader tensions between Iran's conservative religious establishment and the country's younger, more liberal-minded population. Both Saudi Arabia's public dancing ban and Iran's hairstyle code provide insights into the complex social, religious, and political dynamics that shape the Middle East. These laws demonstrate the efforts of authorities in the region to maintain social order and uphold traditional cultural and religious values in the face of globalization and the spread of Western influence. However, these laws have also been met with resistance from those who view them as oppressive and out of touch with the realities of modern life. In addition to these specific examples, other unusual laws in the Middle East include the prohibition of sorcery and witchcraft in some countries, such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. These laws reflect the belief in supernatural forces and the potential for harm that they can cause. Those found to be practicing sorcery or witchcraft can face severe punishments, including lengthy prison sentences and even the death penalty. Another example of a unique Middle Eastern law is the prohibition of proselytizing in countries like Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. These laws are designed to protect the dominant religion of the region, Islam, from the influence of other religious traditions. Non-Muslim religious groups are often allowed to practice their faith in private, but public displays of non-Muslim religious symbols and proselytizing activities are strictly forbidden. In conclusion, the unusual laws found in the Middle East provide a fascinating window into the region's diverse cultural, religious, and political landscape. While some of these laws may seem strange or even oppressive by Western standards, they are a reflection of the complex dynamics that have shaped the societies in which they were enacted. Understanding these laws and the reasons behind them is essential for gaining a deeper appreciation of the Middle East and the challenges it faces in the modern world. In recent times, modern laws with peculiar origins have emerged around the world, reflecting the unique cultural and political contexts of the countries in which they were enacted. One example of such a law is Thailand's lèse-majesté law, which makes it illegal to criticize, defame, or insult the king, queen, heir apparent, or regent. This law, which is among the strictest of its kind globally, is intended to protect the reputation and dignity of the Thai monarchy, a highly revered institution in the country. Violating the lèse-majesté law can result in severe punishments, including lengthy prison sentences. While the law has been criticized by human rights groups for stifling free speech, it remains an important aspect of Thai society and politics. Another example of a modern law with an unusual origin is Iceland's ban on strip clubs. The country became the first in the world to ban strip clubs for feminist reasons in 2010. The law was based on the belief that strip clubs, as well as other establishments that profit from the nudity of their employees, are inherently harmful to women and contribute to the objectification and commodification of their bodies. The ban was widely supported by both the public and political leaders from across the political spectrum, reflecting Iceland's strong commitment to gender equality and social justice.